Hi, this is the Day Trade Recap. Today is November 18th, and I worked with two stocks today, and my trading started in pre-market. The only thing that was moving in pre-market was Macy's, so the ticker symbol M. I didn't see it until after it had made this move right here, okay? And as you can see, I have numbered the waves. I've been talking in the past few videos about how to use the wave theory to count your waves and know when your entries are going to be great. And the one thing I really wanted to point out on this particular thing is yesterday I mentioned range trading, and typically I don't do that unless it makes sense, okay? And since this was pre-market, and this is a stock that, it's a decent stock. We're heading into Christmas season. I had reason to believe that this thing might give me some opportunity even within a range. And so, as I've mentioned previously, the way you do this is the wave theory. You count the waves, okay? And then you get your targets drawn in here manually. So here's my first wave. The ups are odd and the pullbacks are even, okay? So here was the first impulse wave, right? And as you can see, it wasn't a real clear level. We had three candles that just sort of hit that level. So that's why I drew my top click for my targets there. And my bottom one was where that began, okay? That put the rest of these lines on here. If I had seen that, which I didn't, if I had seen that move, I would have waited for a buy signal, in which we got one here, and taken it to my yellow line. That's the rule for this wave strategy. And this usually is the biggest move. Wave 3 is usually the best one out of the bunch. Then we have a pullback in 4. 4 tends to be a little choppy. It wasn't very choppy here, but it was a little bit. And then you look for a buy signal above. You don't want it to be too deep. This was fairly deep, but being pre-market, sometimes you get anomalies that aren't perfect. But as long as it doesn't break below into this wave 1 range, then we're safe on wave 4. Get in your buy signal and take it to this. This is usually a very short, quick scalp. And in this case, it would have been, again, this was before I came in. I came in a few minutes later, like right when it was doing this retest of that level. Retested it, and then it came down. And usually you can expect your range to be between the white or the yellow and then this green line, okay? So if you plan on trading the range, you're going to look for an entry at the lowest point of that range, and you're going to take it to the highest. Usually the first little push isn't going to be all that great, but another trick you can use, and I did do this because I was watching here. After your high, after your 5, you're looking for an ABC correction move, okay? So that's why I labeled these ABC. You'll have a low A, a high B, and then a low C. And usually the C will give you the perfect entry for a range trade, okay? And that's why I got in here. I actually got in at this green arrow, and my target was this red, which it did right here. It only took a couple of, maybe 5 minutes. Entry at, excuse me, 33.89-ish. And then I was getting out at 34.55, right at my level. It went a little above that, but that was perfect. That is just so perfect. Perfect way to trade a range. Do you see how my signal was at the lower end? And I knew that I was expecting that because of this C. Okay, C is the low, usually the lowest part of this corrective wave, okay? So once it's out of this, once it's done that, then you're looking for, after it does this, where am I? Hold on. After it does the C, right? Where am I? I gotta go back to where I am. After it does the C, this impulse move is going to be your first wave in the next move, okay? So I have a 1, I don't know if you can see that, but a 1 right there at the top of that range. So I counted that as a 1. This pullback was my 2, and I'm looking for an entry, a buy signal after that 2, after that low starts to show that, hey, it's going to go up again. So if I hear a buy signal into that 2, I'm going to go and shoot for this yellow line, okay? And it didn't really it didn't really fire off if you have these lines like this. So what I do, because you're not necessarily going to trust these original lines, the first lines that you drew. Remember back on this first impulse move, you drew these lines. Now you've had a correction. So now you probably, and I usually do, will redraw, but I'll keep the original lines on here because looking back, as you can see, it did reach that, it did use that. But you're not always sure. So what I do is I'll draw a new set based on, that's why I number this a 1 right here, okay? I'll draw a new set, and I erase those after things become invalid. That's why you don't see them here right now, but I'm going to show you how I drew them when that was happening. So here was my first new 1 wave, and while it's pulling back, you have time to do all of this. So I have as I've talked about, my little setup here creates a little red line. I don't know if you can see that, but I use that red line for my top click, and I come down and click down to this bottom green line. Do you see that? Where C is. And that gives me this secondary set, which sometimes I keep and sometimes I don't, but I need it for this next move, right? Because this will be a sure thing, because it's based, the next move is going to be based on this one little impulse move that you've just had. Okay, so here's my buy signal, right? And getting in, and I got in. Do you see my green arrow right there? I don't know, it's kind of hard to focus. There's a green arrow. I used these, got my attention. These signals, there were a bunch of them that fired off right there. So that got my attention, and my entry was, what was it? Hold on, $3.24. And in this case, because I'm just created a new set, the second set of targets, my target is going to be this yellow line, okay? And and sure enough, that's why you see a red arrow there. I got out right at 35.24, okay? Now I'm watching to see if these secondary lines that I drew are going to be the new valid lines. And in order for that to be true, it needs to hit this, the fifth, which I didn't want to trade because there wasn't enough range. You know, it came down to 4. 4 didn't really dip down far enough. I mean, it did, but it didn't give me enough range in this case. So, and it didn't even touch that. Let me zoom in. It didn't make it to this line. So if it doesn't make it to that line, I start to think things are invalid. And being close to opening bell, I kind of felt like anything could happen, right? So, and then you have this big sell off, sell down, and it broke all the rules from the secondary set. So that's when I deleted them. The minute it breaks rules, and it broke rules right around in this level, then I erased that. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this little range too now that we're done talking about that. But now you can see that this is using this original set of lines now, this yellow line. It could have come down, and in fact it did. It came down to this, came down into the blue, but as long as it doesn't go any farther, and then it pulled back, and I got a buy signal above my yellow line, my yellow horizontal. Do you see this horizontal? My buy signal is above that. That's what I'm looking for, above that or above the white. But then I'm going to go, and not this yellow line, because it already essentially was testing. Oh, it tested it here. Okay. So the target is now the second yellow line. Okay. And that's exactly what it did, as you can see. So entry around, this was hard to get in on this one because it pushed up so fast. But the entry was around 35.23, and it went all the way up to 37.55 was the target. It went a little higher than that, but 37.55 was the target right here. And that's all it did. And this is Macy's. So I wanted to show you. So this taught you a couple of things. It taught you how to range trade, right? Using the ABC, and because you're using the C, and then the push out of that C is going to be your first wave, okay, for the next series, right? Hopefully. And if it doesn't stay valid to the 5 wave, then you're just going to probably go back to the original if you get a buy signal at this yellow line from the original set of lines, okay? And then just understand what you're looking for. Here it already tested that yellow line, and it went all the way up to this next yellow line. So that's how Macy's worked. That was really good. And then the next one popped in, was able to capture because it had made a 1, right? This had news. This is LGVN, and it had some really good news. So I drew, this was my first impulse wave. I looked to see how it behaved, where it came down, where it gave me a buy signal above this yellow line. So the entry on this one was really early, $3.89. And my first target was this one, $4.86. So, basically $1 a share on that one. Then I'm watching structure. I don't know if you can see this because it went parabolic, and whenever it does that, let me see if I can open this up just a little bit better. Not much. Okay, so here was the first move up to my, I like to label these. It tells me where I am in the trend. 3. So now we're pulling back into 4, and then 4 gave me a buy signal through my yellow line. I actually got in over here on this candle, and I don't usually like to trade the 5th wave, but I did a little bit here. So it was $4.90 to $5.26 because the range was, for this price, it was okay. And then it just continued, right? And this was a little unexpected. It just continued, and so we had a halt candle here right around what was it, $6.34 or something was where it halted. And why it was continuing here is because if you look to the daily chart, if you see your 5 wave break a rule, like it continues to push up, you need to hurry and go to your daily chart and see what is it trying to do, because it's no longer following a wave count strategy. It's doing something else. So let me zoom in, and you can see, looking back here, you have this big gap that it's attempting to fill. So you draw your lines. Right here I drew a white line. That was basically support resistance. If you look really close, I put that line right at the top of this view up, where it kind of vacillated between that level. Okay, and that was right around $7.49 or 50 cents. Then I put one at the top of that too, just in case, right? Just in case. So it hit that white line that I drew. That's why you have to, in a halt, you'll have time to go to your daily chart and look and see if you're stuck in the halt, or if you're thinking of getting in the halt after it comes out. If you have time, then that's what you're going to do. You're going to take that time on that halt and check your daily chart and get some extra lines in here to say, hey, it's headed here, right? And it didn't quite make it to this. I usually get out at the bottom because this is, at the bottom of the lower level of the gap fill. That's usually what I will do. And that's why I draw this first line in here. It didn't quite make it to the top of that next line. So, I'm happy with this, right? So now I'm probably, this one probably will try to set up again, but I'm going to look for a wave count strategy to show up. Right now it's just going to chop a little. We'll see what it does, but in this case I'll be redrawing lines, and if I trade it again, it's getting a little ridiculous, but it may. But anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I wanted to make sure you understood what happened with Macy's, why that was a great lesson to follow, because when you have this ABC, that's going to help you a lot, to help you know where your next one wave is, right? It'll help you get in on a very early trade for that one, so you'll actually be able to trade the first wave of the next series. And then also, if it starts to weaken, or actually this did hit the target, I just deleted, remember I deleted that secondary set. So draw a secondary set from that first wave, and that'll give you this next one. And then if it starts to break rules, like it doesn't reach the 5th level, the 5th target, the 5th wave, which would have been around here, then get rid of your secondary lines, go back to your first lines, use those, and then make sure you understand what it's trying to do. It broke through it had tested this level once, it's probably going to go up to this next one. And so that's how it works, okay? All right, well, that's all I have for you in this video. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will talk soon.